Well, he's trying to give, I think, the press rating. Let's see. Sue Allen. Come here. Now or never.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You're not shameful that they don't give public work. They do things. They do it on purpose. And they need, last time we were proud about this. We need to demand it.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Thank you. Those of you that joined us last night for the Christmas party, I hope you had a good time. It was a great event, and as you think about the holiday season here, Christmas and Hanukkah, our next thing time for us to all think about the many gifts and blessings that God provides on us. And we as Republicans, in particular, have tremendous opportunity ahead of us in next year's election. And when you think about all that has happened in the first year or so of the Biden administration, the wind is at our back as a party, and it presents for us many, many opportunities for Republicans to get elected in next year's election cycle, notwithstanding the victories that we had this past November. So please think of those things as we go forward. I also want you to know that while we're dealing with some petty distractions, we are always focused on what the Ohio Republican Party is supposed to do, and that is to win elections. If you follow our press activities and our social media feeds, see that we're constantly going after Nan Whaley for her support for critical race theory. We are going to release next week a very interesting surprise for Jennifer Bruner. As you know, she's a justice of the Ohio Supreme Court. She's conflicted in dealing with these redistricting cases that come up. Several of the litigants supported her campaign, raised money for her campaign, and she campaigned as someone that would support Democrats on redistricting. So she has had an opportunity to recuse herself. She has refused to do so. And so we have promised to make it an election issue, and you will get a sneak preview of that next week. So Merry Christmas, Jennifer. And of course, Tim Ryan, who supports shutting down American pipelines, but seems to have no problem at all with the Biden administration green-lighting pipelines in Europe. We are attacking him for all the joys that come with high gas prices. So when you fill up your tank or you pay that bill, whether it's electricity or gas to heat your home in the winter, think of Tim Ryan and the Joe Biden and Kamala Harris model.
What about my extra 50 cents gas?
So with that, I'm going to call this meeting of the Ohio Republican Central and Executive Committees is hereby called to order. As we do in every meeting, so that God is in our hearts and in our mind, I recognize 6th District Committee Woman Judy Westbrook to provide us with the invocation. Please stand and remain standing. Judy.
Begin our prayer today. I would like to ask for a moment of silence. I would like to ask for a moment of silence for those we have lost through death. Members and families of our committee and staff, especially Phil Bowman, who has served this committee faithfully for many years. Duchek's father, Treasurer Johnson's mother, and all those for whom we pray. Moment of silence. Thank you. Dear Heavenly Father, we give thanks today as we are gathered in this committee. As we begin this meeting and do the jobs that the voters of our district have entrusted in us, we ask for your presence, your guidance during discussion of the many items on our agenda. Please allow us to be considerate of each other's opinions and to listen patiently and with respect. We ask for your protection over all who serve our great country in the military, both home and abroad, protection over our great state and entire country, and all the people who have been elected to uphold our Constitution. Father, we also ask you to deliver us all safely back to our homes and families when our work here is finished, and we prepare for this most holy season of Christmas and Hanukkah. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. We ask for honesty.
Thank you, Judy. At this time, I'd like to call on committeeman from the 19th My Home District, Jack Etheridge, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Jack?
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning to everyone. Given that this is the time of Thanksgiving, I just want to take a moment to think about what we have to be thankful for. And I want to publicly declare that I'm thankful for the volunteer contribution. I also want to thank voters who elected me to serve them and represent their interests to go higher with the party. And finally, I want to be thankful really for all of us in our greatest republic in the world. And for all of that, we would be thankful by pledging our allegiance to each one in doing.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jack. So you have your Christmas hat. Yes. At this time, I will recognize Katie DeLand to read the notice of the Republican State Conference in the Executive Committee of Ohio meeting and to call the roll. Katie?
Good morning. On October 18th, we were notified of our meeting to be held on December 2nd at the Nationwide Hotel and Conference Center in Lewis. We will take the roll call now. Bob Campbell. Here. Tina Campbell. Here. Mark Wagner. Here. Thomas. Here. Brad McLeod. Here. Joanne Davidson. Gary Cate. Patty Olson. Here. Steve Brown. Here. Mary Beth Kemmer. Here. Arthur McGuire Sr. Here. Judy Westbrook. Here. Bob McEwen. Here. Michelle Schneider. Here. Alex Ramsdorf. Here. Mary Ann Christie. Here. Jim McNulty. Here. Linda Matthews. Here. Steve Austria. Here. Laura Rosenberger. Here. Donna Owens. Here. Chris Joseph. Here. Steve Cheney. Katie Deland. Here. David Arenando. Patty Stein. Here. Craig Simpson. Here. Gloria Martin. Here. Jim Burgess. Here. Patty Martin. Here. Mark Bainbridge. Here. Susie O'Brien. Here. Connie Ward. Here. Mike Berger. Here. Mary O'Toole. Here. That was her phone. Okay. Jack Etheridge. Here. Melanie Lettingham. Here. My phone. Pat Hennessy. Angela White. Here. Joe Miller.
Here.
Susan Rodman. Here. Rob Hilbert.
Here.
Joanne Campbell. Here. Rob Frost.
Here.
Doris Peters. Here. Shannon Burns.
Here.
Lucy Stickett. Here. Dan Carter.
Here.
Denise Burry. Here. Jonathan Zucker.
Here.
Lisa Cooper. Here. Brian Williams.
Here.
Kayla Atchison. Here. Jim Simon.
Present.
Kurt Braden.
Here.
Sarah Brown. Present. Jim Carnes. Leanne Johnson. Here. Doug Wills.
Here.
Betty Montgomery. Here. Casey O'Brien.
Here.
Melissa Pope. Dave Johnson.
Here.
Monica Rob Blaisdell. Here, my son. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. So, members, you should each have an agenda for today's meeting. It can be found in the red member folder. The chair would entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. Do I have a motion? Sarah Brown?
Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Is there a second? A second? Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the agenda is adopted. Approval of the previous meeting minutes. There's a copy of these from the September meeting in the member packets. I will entertain a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes and for their approval as presented. Is there a motion? Dan Carter, thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Yes, go ahead, Doris.
I would like to make a motion Chairman, to advise the state that determine that they will withdraw from the audit engagement, audit the financial statements of the Ohio Public Life as of December 31st. December 31st, 2020. Our chairman also advised us that he will seek out another election to complete the audit for 2019 and 2020. And the chairman advised that CPA source usage will be broken part-time for the Ohio Republican Party.
Is there a second to the motion to amend? Okay, the second. Is there discussion on amendment to the minutes?
Actually, September 10th, question about George Feasted, the employee of ORP, and the minutes are deficient in that they are missing that half-hour long discussion. So I'm not quite sure how to put wording into the minutes. And there's no recording of that meeting, but it has to do with Houston employment.
Okay, so we're dealing with the motion. We're discussing the motion that was made by Doris. So if you want to make a separate motion, you can have that unless you believe that her motion is sufficient to. Okay, well then you need to wait. Jim Simon.
Mr. Chairman, I oppose the motion. Our secretary is charged with capturing our party's proceedings in a way that reflects what happened. It is not the transcript of our meetings. So I would ask that we oppose this motion.
Thank you. Angela?
Point of clarification, I believe you started to say that for Houston was consultant on TV.
Correct.
I believe that should be, if this motion is passed, that should be amended.
Okay. Any further discussion? So, all those in favor of amending the minutes, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. In the opinion of the chair, the nays have it. The motion is, I would ask guests, in last meeting I gave guests 3 warnings. You're getting 1 warning, and this is it. In particular, ma'am, you're not a member of this committee. You cannot make motions or call for questions. Actually, they do not.
Well, I almost guarantee they do.
I'm pretty sure they don't.
We'll find
But
out.
thank you. I mean, I've not gotten a check yet. So if the government is sending us one, we need to look into that, all right? But I'm serious. We're not going to get, there are a lot of people here. The gallery is in an overflow situation. If you will not allow us to conduct our business, we will ask you to leave or we'll stop the meeting.
Can the gallery be
Robert's
expanded to
minutes,
this
point
open
of
area?
order. You have to give a roll call if you're asking.
Mr. Chairman, there's a motion on the floor.
Yes, thank you, Kurt. We'll move along. Laura, you wanted to make a motion.
So that was about a half an hour long discussion, and there's nothing in the minutes reflecting that half hour long discussion.
So
I think the minutes need to at least mention George Houston's name and his firm that he works for.
So Laura, I need you to articulate the specific change to the minute. If you want to make an amendment to the minutes, you have to articulate that similar to what.
Okay, then I move that the minutes be amended to say that George Houston is now an employee of the ORP, and he is employed by the firm Henry Allen.
If George is not an employee of the ORP. He is a contractor to the ORP, under a contract to the firm, and he comes into the office like other contractors do.
And who is his employer?
What's the name? Henry Allen? It's Henry Allen.
Okay, is that George back there? You were employed by Henry Allen?
Yes.
And who owns Henry Allen right now? Aren't you employed by Axiom?
Hey, Laura, we
No,
need
to
to.
correct the record, are you employed by Axiom?
Laura, we're dealing with some business. I know you're out of order. You need to make a motion and we'll deal with the motion and we can move on the agenda. We have to keep it on track.
I move that George Houston, as an employee of Henry Allen, okay, be added to the minutes for September 10th in the chairman's report.
Okay, that's fair. We can get that. Okay, can we have a second? There's a second. Open it for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I rise again in opposition to the motion. Under Robert's rules, minutes are meant to capture those present who are members of the body, not guests unless it is their practice to do so, in the proceedings that happen. Again, as I reviewed our minutes, and I reviewed our minutes for the 10 years I've been on this committee, we've never reflected consultants present, we've never reflected employees present. It's not our practice, so we shouldn't start now. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? So the chair would like to, Jack, go ahead.
I mean, this just strikes me, all respect, Mr. Simon, as this just excuse me. This strikes me as a technical adjustment that really does not depart from the historical practice that Mr. Simon correctly points out. And I would urge the committee for us to make this minor technical correction because it was a substantial discussion. And it's a discussion on a matter that has consumed a lot of the committee's interest on a subject that I think the public has an interest in as well.
Thank you, Jack. Further discussion? Okay, so all those I'm gonna call the question, all those in favor of the motion to amend the minutes to show that, George, Houston, an employee of Henry Allen was engaged, as a contractor to the Ohio Republican Party, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. In the opinion of the chair, the nays have it. So can we go back to the original issue of accepting the minutes? We had a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the minutes as presented to the committee? Seeing none, those in favor of accepting the minutes, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion to accept the minutes as presented is approved. The chair would now like to call on Justin Biss to give the executive director's report.
Good morning. And thank you, Mr. Chairman. So there's been a great deal of changes since we talked last September. Since that time, we've made some new personnel adjustments. We hired a new finance director, Laura Bates. Laura brings many years of effective fundraising and event planning experience to our Ohio Republican Party. She's a former events director for President Trump's campaign and fundraiser for Auditor P. We are excited to have Laura as a key member of our team. Unfortunately, Laura's mother passed away over Thanksgiving. That's why she's not understandably with us today. But please keep her and her family in your prayer. Also last meeting, Chairman Fiducic introduced Clayton Morris as our professionally certified human resources consultant. Well, today, I'm here to introduce Clay as our new Chief Operating Officer. Clay will be administering the business side of the party's operations. In addition to his 25 years as an HR professional, Clay has served both Governors Voinovich and Taft as Deputy Director of Business and Human Resources with the Ohio Department of Transportation. He has experience as owner of several small businesses and has managed political campaigns, including a congressional race way back in 1994. I don't want to tell you how old I was. Clay is well suited to fill this incredibly important role. Additionally, we have convened a building review committee to review all of our current and future building expenditures and needed improvements. They will begin meeting in December, and Clay will be part of that process. Finally, I am pleased to announce that we have entered into a letter of engagement with an experienced and well-qualified accounting firm to review and address the baseless allegations and complaints that have been volleyed at this committee and our party. This forensic review will be conducted by a CPA firm with experience in working with state political parties and understands the accounting principles and processes by which we follow. We've already begun providing records and documents, and we are hopeful that we can put some closure to the issue before the end of the year. In conclusion, the audit committee has approved and sent a request for proposal to effective accounting firm to review the 4-year period which we are finalizing. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report. But I would also like to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and a safe New Year. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. And Justin's getting married in May. Mazel tov. So I think he seems a little nervous and stressed. Now you know why. She's a lovely girl. Hope you get a chance to meet her. This, yeah, do you have a? Sure. We'll give you an update on that. Yeah, absolutely. The chair would like to recognize the Honorable Dave Johnson, our treasurer, to give the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know that I have the title honor. It is a pleasure for me to present the financial report for this period Many of you know the party has now hired a CPA, manage our finances, our compliance. The gentleman's name is George Husted. He was involved and instrumental in preparing today's financial reports. Now on to our current finances. Starting with our balance sheet, total cash on hand, $1,300,523. This compares with $821,157 in 2017. We are up about $479,000 for that period. Total liabilities currently are $463,412. This compares with liabilities of $907,000 in 2017. We are down $444,000 from that period. Moving on to our profit and loss statement. Monies raised January 1st, 2021 through October 31st, 2021 amount to $1,371,845 total income. Some fundraising highlights. We've continued pushing our direct mail fundraising program, which has now generated $290,846. The chairman has been hard at work expanding our base of major donors and has brought in an impressive $485,000 from these donors. Total ORP operating expenditures is $1,182,920. And that is the sum and substance of the current report. And I want to say one more thing. There is not one shred of credible evidence to suggest that there is any money missing from this party. I became treasurer when Jane Temple was elected, and there wasn't enough money to meet payroll. And we have come a long, hard road from there. This chairman needs to be congratulated for what he's done. So thank you very much. Yes, sir.
At the last meeting, at January 2021, the organization had an equity balance today in the financial statement, it says that we have an equity balance of $2,455,165. That's a difference of $275,000.
What's your point?
My point is that you're also showing there's income of $16,000. So what happened to the $291,000? It's basic accounting. It is basic accounting. Basic accounting is that your equity at the beginning of the year, plus or minus your income, equals your equity at the end of the period.
Your assets less your liabilities equal your equity. Did you learn that when you were 40 years old?
Absolutely.
I don't think you know what you're talking about.
Well, just explain.
It stands for what it is. And that's all I have to say. I'm not going to.
Well, so you can't answer the question.
I answered the question.
You didn't answer the question. There's a difference in the equity that you have not explained. It's basic accounting 101. Maybe George can explain. Yeah, what is the difference? Why doesn't the beginning equity at January 1st,
Mark, this is Mark.
2021?
Mark, you're out of order. You cannot interrogate a person in the staff. You had a question.
Okay, the question.
Treasurer Johnson answered your question. I know that's not the answer to your satisfaction, but this isn't a courtroom. You're going to get your day in court, but this is not a courtroom. So.
Well, I have another question for Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, in the financial statements, you said you have been treasurer since Jane was chairman. In those financial statements, again, well, let me just go to the balance sheet. That there was a receivable that was written off in May of 2021
for $640,000. That receivable had been on the books for over 3 years and hadn't changed by 1 penny in that period. Why did you leave that on the books for that long and then write it off in May of 2021? Weren't you looking at the financial statements and giving us reports on them?
Hold on, Chairman, or Treasurer Johnson, Mark, as you heard in the executive director's report, because of your concerns, and because of the allegations you've made, and then we feel it incumbent upon us to clear the record and answer all these questions. Because of that, we're paying for an independent investigation, which we're in contract agreement with, that will be conducted to answer that specific allegation that you've made, and it will be conducted. You'll be contacted by these individuals, provide any information you want, and we'll move forward. You are not, however, allowed to harass or threaten them as you did with the folks at CLA. And so your question will be answered. There's no need for you to berate Treasurer Johnson. And at this point, we're going to move on with the meeting agenda.
Well, Mr. Chairman, Justin said that there was going to be a review of that 4-year period. Is it going to be a review or an audit?
Mark, your question's been answered. This is
no. Is it a review or an audit? Are you going to give us a copy of the contract?
We'll provide you with information on that.
Well, you didn't answer my question. Did we get a copy of the contract? Is it a review or an audit? There's a very big difference.
Mark, you and I will discuss this later because
you don't answer my question. How can I discuss it?
I don't have a phone call from you, Mark.
You had lots of phone calls that you never answered.
I don't have a phone call from you, Mark, that I didn't.
You have messages in your machine or your cell phone. So they've been going on for a long time. But what kind of
point of order? Yes, Jim. Yes, Jim. We will do so at this point, Mark.
Let me just go on the record that Mr. Johnson did not answer the question.
You are out of order. Please try to remain calm, okay? Thank you.
The treasurer's report.
We have a motion to accept the treasurer's report in the second. Any discussion? Yeah, Chris.
And you show a difference in the equity of a negative 173,000 on page 3. Doesn't that answer the question why the equity account? I understand it.
So very simple. The asset for this organization does the liabilities equal to that.
I understand, but it does tie into the end. That is correct. So the question is that 173 negative, doesn't that in some way impact the cash? That's why there's a difference.
Right.
Okay. Thanks for your point. Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Is there any further discussion on the treasurer accepting the treasurer's report? Yeah. Mike.
Yeah. As a relatively new member, I've been watching, a lot that's been going on with the financials and seen stuff going back and forth. And I don't disagree that there are some legitimate questions that have been posed. I think the issue is that we're airing this out, and this is not the forum to look at financial statements and go through the financial records to show whether or not there could be any errors or anything that needs change. And I would just ask all the members to try to remain calm and to make sure that we allow whatever firm that is now involved in this to go through and present the facts that are here. And I know looking at a page of financial documents here doesn't show potentially years worth of transactions that have taken place. There are a lot of transactions that have gone through the account. And I think we really need to make sure that we see what the facts are before we jump to conclusions. And and make any accusations of any wrongdoing or any improprieties.
That would be a approved course of action. Any further discussion on the treasurer's report, accepting the treasurer's report? Okay. All those in favor of accepting the treasurer's report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the report is accepted. Moving on to new business, we now will fill the State Central Committee vacancy in the 17th District. The 17th District includes Fayette, Clinton, Ross, Highland, Jackson, Gallia, Lawrence, portions of Pickaway, and Benton counties. And that's a lot of real estate. The Ross, Clinton, and Fayette County chairs recommended Tim Inwood to fill the vacancy. I will now recognize Bonnie Ward, committee woman from the 17th District, for the purpose of a nomination. Bonnie?
Good morning, everyone. Dear friend is not here with us, but I'm sure he's here in spirit. One of my wise friends, who I would call frequently, he had a lot more experience than me, and he was always there to give me words of wisdom and great thoughts. So I expect the same from Tim over there. So I would like to read just a little bit about Tim. Tim is a devoted Republican who got his political start going door to door with his grandmother for Republican candidates at the age of 5 in 1968. As a teen, he was further inspired by the conservative agenda of President Reagan and Congressman then Bob McEwen. In college, he served as the president of the Wright State University College Republicans and represented the school at President Reagan's second inaugural. He was active helping the Clinton County Republican Party and its candidates, serving on several campaigns for many years. There he served as communications chairman for the party until 2014. Mr. Inwood was then elected to serve as chairman of the executive committee of the Clinton County Republican Party and as overall chairman of the party. He still serves in that capacity and is pretty popular with his fellow chairmen, statewide elected officials, and Republicans in Washington, D.C. Tim is a Republican's Republican. Conservative to the marrow of his bones, he will be a good fit on this body. I am honored and pleased to nominate Tim Inwood to fill the vacancy of the State Central Committeeman in the 17th District. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Is there a second? Second.
You just heard Tim's political resume. Let me tell you about Tim the man, Tim the advocate for the Second Amendment. He's a director of the OGCA. He tirelessly works with candidates, makes speeches, goes out, works as hard as anyone I've ever known in the Second Amendment work for that great right. But he's a wonderful man, he's a wonderful husband, he's a wonderful father, and a blessed grandfather. I second that motion.
Thank you, Dan. Are there any other nominations? Seeing no other nominations, the nominations are closed. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll now vote on the nomination of Tim Inwood for the vacancy in the 17th District. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Congratulations, Tim, for being elected. Would you please come up, and Bonnie, would you come up as well?
I want to thank you all for this honor. Setting up a little prayer. I want to thank my friend Bonnie Ward, Dan Carter, for the loyalty and friendship for years. I apologize, I did not get to call all of you prior to this event. I did reach out to a number, get to know each other a number of days. I pledge to you that I'm going to work hard for our conservative cause and help elect our candidates and to defeat our opposition. I'd like to remind everyone that our opposition is Democrats. Democrats who have turned their back on God, the Constitution, trying to attack our Second Amendment rights, trying to suppress our First Amendment rights. Democrats who take over our educational institution turned out a couple generations of semi-literate radicals who hate our country. Unbelievable. And they're embracing Marxism, murderous ideologies of race. The Democrats who, once they took over the White House and Congress, immediately attacked our domestic energy production. And after 20 years of war, capitulated to a bunch of 8th century goat herders who are still at war with us. We left $85 million worth of weaponry in their hands. The types of guns that if we had them, the Biden administration would prosecute us. Joe Biden gave it to them with a red ribbon around it. And they have night vision now to do something they didn't have before. My friends, if we're going to save this country, we have to keep in mind who the real opposition is, the Democrats. We have to defeat them. But there's only one way we're going to defeat them, that's if we're unified. So I implore you all, put the differences aside, work things out. 22 is going to be too important for us to be this divided.
So let's, what we're going to do is we're going to have you take the oath of office. So please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Tim Inwood, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Defense and the Constitution of the State of Ohio. I will obey the rules and bylaws of the Republican National Committee. I will obey the rules and bylaws and the rules and bylaws of the Republican State Central and Executive Committee. The rules of the Ohio State Central and Executive Committees. And I will faithfully perform the duties as State Central Committeeman of my district. State Central Committeeman of my district. That's my ability, so help me God. Rest of my Lord. Okay, now we will fill the State Central Committee vacancy in the 28th district. The 28th district includes a portion of Summit County, and the Summit County Chairman has recommended Debbie Carr. I will recognize Brian Williams, committeeman from the 27th district, for the purpose of the nomination.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This vacancy exists because, for a happy reason. Debbie Walsh, who is a longtime member of this committee, was appointed recently by the Republican Central Committee to be the acting municipal clerk of court. So we had a retirement vacancy, and Debbie has stepped up in a competitive race. She was stepped up, but she was appointed by the local party, so therefore by our bylaws, she must lead the committee. Debbie, I want to thank you for your service on this committee and everything that you've done with the Summit County Republican Party over the many, many years. Executive Director, Assistant Director for Board of Elections, and now a former elected member of the Akron School Board, and now we know you'll do an outstanding job to retain that seat. That's a seat that has always been held by Republicans since its creation in what year? 1928 or something like that. We've had it for nearly 100 years, so we're going to keep that record going. It is my honor to nominate to replace Debbie Carr. I joked last night with Debbie, the reason we did this because we're frugal and we're going to take Debbie Walsh's name badge, just put a piece of tape over the wall. So we can have Debbie Carr wearing the name badge. So we went out and found, we couldn't find Debbie Walsh to replace her. Debbie is an outstanding Summit County Republican. Funny story, years ago, my predecessor, Alex Archibald, announced at a Republican dinner that we needed volunteers at the Board of Elections to come and work because we need loyal Republicans to keep an eye on the Democrats who, if it's not nailed down, will steal it, including election. And Debbie answered the call. She came to the Board of Elections, and when the payroll clerk asked for her driver's license and her social security card to enroll her, she said, well, this is pretty intense volunteer work. And she said, well, no, you're going to be an employee of the Board of Elections. And Debbie was willing to go down to the Board of Elections and volunteer and work as an employee just so that we could have a fair and good elections in Summit County. Since then, she has become a member of the Finance Committee. She and her husband, Fred, who is a retired economics professor, free market conservative, they do exist. He is a professor. They are loyal supporters of the Summit County Republican Party, both as Finance Committee members, but they've raised two children, son and daughter-in-law, who have been elected officials on behalf of the Summit County Republicans, and they've done an outstanding job. Leader in all of our women's organizations, executive committee members, everything she's been asked to do, she has volunteered, done so with great cheer and aplomb. She would be a constructive and joyful member of this committee. Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to nominate Debbie Carr for this position.
Is there a second that Chair recognizes Jim Simon?
Thank you. On the happy occasion of my friend and neighbor Debbie Walsh being appointed as Akron Clerk of the Akron Municipal Court, it is my pleasure to second Debbie Carr's nomination to replace Deborah, to move into that position. I don't know that anybody can ever replace the work that Debbie has done. I've known Debbie Carr for almost 20 years, and what I can say is everything Brian said, and I can't say it better than he did, but I will add, everything Debbie has done, she has done joyfully well, has become a leader in our party, and it is my pleasure to second her nomination.
Thank you, Jim. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, nominations are closed. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll now vote on the nomination of Debbie Carr. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Congratulations, Debbie. Come on up. Great. Brian, you hold the Bible here. And, raise your right hand.
I, Debbie Carr, solemnly swear I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and I will obey the rules and the bylaws of the Republican National Committee and the rules and the bylaws of the Republican State Central Committee and Executive Committee of Ohio. And I will faithfully perform my duties as State Committee Central Woman of my district to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations. You know, Brian has a radio program and he does a stand-up routine. He's available for bar mitzvahs and quinceañeras. He'll be here always. We will now consider the 2022 budget proposal, which is found in your folder. The budget was prepared by the Budget Oversight Committee and approved by the Fiscal Review Committee. The chair now recognizes Marianne Christie for a motion to adopt the budget. Marianne? Oh, you can come up, yeah, or we can come to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Budget Oversight Committee is doing a meeting on November 18th following that. And White, Mary Beth Campbell, Lucy Stevens, Jim Pines, and Robert O'Connor. The function of the committee was to develop an ORP budget, operating budget. And the committee did an in-depth investment of the processes of requirement from the ORP and looked at past budget that were passed. So
Thank you, Marianne. Is there a second to the motion? Seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Other budget, we've been talking about this for a long time. Budget is not as a governing document that's used to make a management out.
And without a comparison to the actual numbers, which this budget doesn't give us, this budget is pretty much worthless. And we've talked about that our financial statements that we get on a quarterly basis should also have a comparison. The other point I would make, question I would ask, is why aren't revenues included in this? Again, revenues hold management accountable for what donations they're going to get for the year. And how can we budget expenses if management is not made accountable for the revenues that they need to raise?
Thank you, Mark. Any other discussion? Seeing no other discussion, we will now vote on the adoption of the budget. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the 2022 budget is approved. Resolutions. Now, today we have an unprecedented number of resolutions to consider. I can't think of any time in the history of the committee where we've had 5 resolutions come forward. Now, each of these resolutions has been distributed to the members 10 days prior to the meeting. Considering both of those facts, so that we all get home sometime today and not after Christmas, I'm going to strictly limit discussion to 3 minutes for each speaker. And we'll move through these as efficiently as possible. So at this point, the chair, we will now consider a draft resolution. All these are, by the way, are in your red folder, correct? So they should be there on the right-hand pocket, and they should be in the order of that we're addressing them. If they're not, my apologies. We'll now consider a draft resolution submitted by Mark Bainbridge. The chair recognizes Mark to introduce the draft resolution.
Today I present a motion to the Ohio Republican Party regarding financial law. And we got an email this past week from Dustin saying that there was going to be a review of the financial statements for the 4-year period from December from 2017 until 2020. The review is significantly different than and what we need is a forensic audit. So this resolution is to assure that management clearly understands and will, in fact, be required to do an audit. Whereas, and I'll read this resolution, whereas the financial statements for 2017 through 2020 presented by the ORP treasurer incorrectly recorded accounts receivable balances of $640,000. And whereas the chairman and treasurer wrote off these accounts receivable in 2021 without notice or explanation to either the fiscal review committee or the state central committee. Whereas the subsequent May 24, 2021 accounts receivable memo that documented the approximately $640,000 was incorrectly reported as income or contributions in the profit and loss statements in the years ended 2017 and 2018. And whereas the financial records for 2017 indicate there was a $1.7 million reduction in retained earnings in the equity section, and such adjustments are not explained in the financial. Therefore, be it resolved that the audit committee and ORP chairman are hereby directed to expand the scope of the audit procedure to include the financial statements for years ended December 31st, 2017 and 18, be it further resolved that the audit or fiscal review committees shall have at least one joint meeting with CPA firm to review a draft of the audited financial statements and related documents. Be it further resolved that at the conclusion of the audit, all members of the State Central Committee shall be given a copy of the audited financial statements and related documents. I further move that the committee take action on directives in this motion and that this be voted on by a roll call vote.
We're dealing with the motion of a resolution, okay? And there's not a motion on the roll call vote, so there's no, the second is out of order. There further discussion on the resolution that's been presented. The chair here's a motion to refer committee from Jim Simon. And there's a second. Is there any discussion on the motion to refer to committee? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jim.
Review the motion, and the committee make recommendations to our committee if they see fit as to further action on the motion.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Now, seconded is Steve Bruins. Now open it up for discussion. Yes.
I'm not quite sure why.
When basically all we're asking for is an audit, or all that this is asking for is an audit, which we've been discussing in the last 3 meetings that we've had, that we are doing an audit. So why can't we just go ahead with this resolution here rather than throwing it into the audit subcommittee, which has been reorganized anyway?
Thank you. Jim, if you want to reply to that, since you made the motion.
Mr. Chairman, first off, thank you. First off, we heard a report earlier that a forensic audit has been engaged and is underway. It would seem to me that the audit committee is what should be overseeing that audit. If we have an audit by Mr. Bainbridge's motion, in addition to the audit that's being recommended by the audit committee, it seems like 2 audits. I think we need the audit committee as the committee that's authorized under our rules to provide clarity and to determine what would make the most sense in their judgment.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman, I am not asking for one forensic audit for the entire year. From 2011 through 2017 through December of 2020. It's not asking for 2 audits.
Okay, thank you for your clarification. Any other further discussion? Yes, Jim. Joe.
We can throw it back to the committee and look at it. Yeah, I think we're asking a very simple question here. We're saying, let's take a vote. We're here. Our main group had to say, let's take a vote and see if you want to conduct an audit for 2017 and 2018. We should do a roll call.
Are there any further discussion on the motion to refer to committee? Jack? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mary Beth. I'll get you, Jack. I'm ladies first.
So I do not believe we should vote on this motion, and here's why. Mr. Bainbridge and others have sued members of this committee. By voting on this, I think we might be, and I don't know, I'm not an attorney, but we might be admitting something or saying something that agrees with whatever his suit is. So I believe we should vote no, or at least put this in.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah.
Order, question of the parliamentarian. Would it be appropriate? In light of my esteemed colleagues' comments, would it be more appropriate in the parliamentarian's judgment for me to withdraw my motion to refer and turn that into a motion to table and fight the lawsuit?
But I think the motion the committee puts it somewhere where it can be acted on.
My question is, should it be laid on the table in light of the pending litigation?
Well, my understanding of the parliamentary procedure laid on the table will be brought back up later in the meeting.
I think we could refer to a point. We could either refer to a point in the meeting or later, but I want to know what we want to do.
Yeah, sure. Come on up, Mr. Water Spot.
Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Simon, I'm really careful about saying too much about the litigation
perspective, referral to committee, the parliamentary perspective, laying the motion on the table, but also be fine.
We think motion's even in order.
I do, and so, so the motion to refer, motion to table, secondary motion, just take precedent over the main motion. And it's been seconded, and you're in the course of these, the course of the debate presently. And so from a procedural perspective, either of those efforts are, would be appropriate for the committee to discuss or to decide how to manage. And so, Jim,
I'm fine.
Either way, yes, correct. Either way that the would like to manage that promotion. Procedural perspective is appropriate.
I'll keep my motion.
Thank you, Jim. Any further discussion on the motion? Yes, Laura? I'm not sure. Well, you can have a discussion. You can discuss. Okay, that is fine.
I would like to offer a possible solution to the question of Mr. Bainbridge's resolution or motion, whatever you call it. When you presented the audit today, it was unclear as to how far back that audit will go with this new company that you have hired. So maybe if you clarify, does this new audit contract to go back to the fiscal year ending 17?
Yes, it goes back 4 years. It was in Justin's report. I'm not sure
goes
if you
back
caught
to
that.
fiscal
Yeah,
year ending 2017.
correct.
Okay, thank
So
you, Mr.
4 year, it's members want to go back further than 4 year. I wanted to have the first audit completed before we did that, but now that we're starting from scratch again, we just decided to do it 4.
Okay, thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
I'm just trying to confirm, it is an audit, not a review. Is that correct?
I don't have it in front of me. I think you check that.
Constant fit right there. I'm looking at it.
And our bylaws require us for the audit committee to review the treasurer's report and finances and books and to provide a report each year. We're not required to do an audit or fiscal review or anything.
So what you're saying is this is a review that you guys are talking about, not an audit?
Yeah, I'd have to look at it. I don't have but I can. Listen, we're going off track here because there's a motion on discussion. No, but we have a motion to refer this to the audit committee. And if this goes to the audit committee can answer those questions, deal with those questions, and address these issues. So we have to keep the meeting germane to what is happening on the meeting. I'm really sorry about that. This is it. If any more outbursts from the gallery, you'll be asked to leave. And I would hope that you would do so quietly. Okay? Thank you. So, Jack, you wanted to make a comment in the discussion.
Thank you, Chairman. So I wanted to esteem Mr. Simon if he's willing to take leave to amend his motion to place a time deadline on the report from the committee to which the man might be referred. Well, what would you have in mind? I'm thinking 3 months.
Well, I guess Kurt Braden's the chair of the audit committee. Kurt, how long do you think your committee would want to look at this?
Well, we're still waiting for more. We could shoot for the next meeting, but
You want to do 3, so the next meeting would be February, which would be roughly 2 months.
yeah, I think we might be a little longer than that. Process.
Okay.
Yeah.
So an update on the next meeting.
Yeah, be next meeting. Sure.
Gentlemen, Jim, you comfortable amending? So the question is, for everyone's edification, is to refer the resolution to the audit committee for a review and report to be reported on at the next meeting, which is February 4th, February 4th. Any further discussion on the amended motion to refer to? Oh, do we have a second to Jim's motion? Yeah, seconded. Yeah. Okay?
Mr. Chair, I request a roll call vote.
We don't have provisions in the rules for roll call votes. So we will do the votes. We do not have provisions for those votes. We will call the ayes and the nays, and we'll see how it looks out. If we have to do division of the House, we'll do division of the House. Okay? This is on,
I don't like at the state house or anything. People vote and they get their name and where they stand on these issues. When we get to this committee here, everybody just is yay or nay, who's voting for a secret ballot or something. What's wrong with doing roll call? So people can just really stand up for what they believe in this committee. But I appreciate that's not how the bylaws work. I'm sorry. Our roll call vote, we have to have a roll call for who is attending. Certainly have a roll call vote on how people are voting on it.
Well, we have a lot of resolutions to go through, and as we see, this one's taken a lot of time here. So do we have a call? Is there a discussion and a call to the question?
Can I have a
Hold on. Okay, go ahead, Chris. What do you think? I think Jim agreed to proffer it.
I think I withdrew my resolution.
Yes. Yeah, so I think Jack requested him to do that. He did that, so that would negate the need. All right about that. Okay, good.
Point of order.
What's your?
Explain why we can't do a roll call vote in accordance with property order, really included in our bylaws.
Yeah. That's incorrect.
May I ask the parliamentarian a question? My recollection is that our rules specifically provide for how votes are to be conducted. And if we were to conduct a vote any other way, that would then require a change to the rules, which would be a 2/3 vote. Is that correct, Mr. Parliamentarian?
Mr. Simon is correct.
So I guess the question is, do we have a 2/3 vote, take a roll call vote for Mr. Bainbridge's request? And I know I at least would be voting no on that.
So the current discussion is on the issue of referring the resolution to the audit committee to come back and give the full committee report by the next meeting, which is February 4th. Okay, is there further discussion on the question at hand? Yes.
There's no way that anybody here can understand what's going on.
Right.
We just don't know what the numbers are. We don't understand the numbers. We don't know what they are. And an audit is needed. I mean, yes. We know it.
I agree completely, Jim. We would have had one that would have been completed the first week of October had not unauthorized members of this committee harassed and harangued the auditors. You're not recognized. This is not one of the
I'm not involved in any of that.
I didn't say you were, but I think we want to get this done and get this answer. I don't think there's anybody on this committee that doesn't want to have that completed. There is no one that expressed it. So we're trying to move forward on this. So
there's no reason to put this off for February. We discussed it in depth.
Well, we're not putting. Well, hold on. We
need to have this all done.
Jim, let me be clear that there is two distinctive things happening here. There is an RFP that is out to do a 4-year review. Okay, there is a motion to do something. What all stuff in Mark's resolution. We're having a discussion right now on a motion to refer that to the audit committee to get an answer to us by the next meeting. That does not stop the current RFP process that's taking place. That does not stop the separate investigation that we're funding based on Mark's allegations and our need to clear the state party's good name. So those two things are going to continue to go on, whether this resolution passes or whether this resolution doesn't pass. Okay. So there's a call to question.
Point of order.
What's your point of order?
Under Article 7, Section 2 of the bylaws, it says the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order.
The most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order shall govern all proceedings of the committee, not specifically covered
Mark,
by these
your
rules.
point of order is out of order. We're having a discussion here, not on a roll call vote. We are having a discussion on a motion. We're going to, the question has been called. We're going to call the question, all right? So, we are now, just to keep everybody up to speed, because there's a lot going on here, there is a motion to refer Mark Bainbridge's resolution, which you've all had for 10 days, to refer that to the audit committee to come back with a report on that resolution at the next meeting of the state executive assembly committees. Okay? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Nay. Clearly, to the chair, the ayes have it, and the resolution is sent to the committee. Okay. Moving along, we will now consider a draft resolution submitted by Laura Rosenberger. The chair recognizes Laura to introduce the resolution. We can bring you a microphone. You don't have to come all the way up here, Laura.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of this fine committee, I am going to preface my proposal with a simple story of why we must require Chairman Producic to repair his breach of contract and obey the bylaws by returning the standing committees to their original membership established by former Chairman Jane Timken and requiring the standing committees to elect their own chairman. I respectfully ask you to listen to my reasons why it is imperative we honor our bylaws. As you know, we were assigned our committees in September 2020. I was honored that Jane appointed me to the audit committee and was excited to go to work right away and immediately requested an audit committee meeting with my esteemed colleagues, Kurt Braden and Brad McLeod, that month. To my surprise, Kurt declined and said we should wait until after the election. By the end of November, I requested another meeting with Kurt and Brad to learn more about the audit committee process and was especially interested in why the ORP had not audited in over 12 years, when an annual audit is clearly required by the bylaws. That second meeting request was met with failure as Brad and I were stood up. I grew concerned because the audit committee was supposed to report at the December meeting and not much was happening. In the meantime, our colleague Mark Bainbridge convinced Jane the ORP needed to obey the bylaws and have the required annual audit done by an independent CPA firm. Rob Seekauer got the process going and Jane invited Mark to our meetings as an advisor because of his professional experience as an auditor. By December, we voted on and approved 5 firms to consider, none of which were CLA, an unknown firm we never discussed. 2 days before Christmas, however, Rob slipped in CLA to the list unnoticed because of the holiday timing. From that point on, Mark was not invited to any more meetings. In January, without him, we selected CLA knowing it had a conflict of interest with the Timken name. Then we got a new chair and nothing happened for a very long time. It was May and the audit was supposed to be done in June, so I asked for a copy of the CLA contract Chairman Producic signed with any supporting documentation to be sent to the entire audit committee. I was met with resistance, but I got the contract and requested a 3rd meeting with the audit committee again and was again denied that 3rd meeting by Mr. Brady. Nothing happened over the summer with the exception that Mr. Bainbridge and I spoke with CLA, which is consistent with generally accepted accounting standards, and Chairman Producic chewed us out for doing so. When CLA terminated its contract, I was not told until everyone else learned of it at the September meeting. In October, like a lot of other members, in a retaliatory move by Chairman Producic, I was kicked off the audit committee for interfering with the audit. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the truth and is supported by the timeline, emails, and recording evidence I possess and can provide upon request. I keep meticulous records and have everything materially substantiated, including audio recordings of it all, because I was the bookkeeper for the Springfield Symphony Orchestra, a very old cultural nonprofit for several years, where I performed an annual independent audit with CPA firm Clark Schaefer Hackett. Based on my professional experience, I can tell you the 2017 Right Side Compliance Report is not an audit. It is a consulting report done by lawyers from a consulting company. Audits are lawfully mandated to be performed by CPAs from a CPA firm, and in 2017, it's definitely not. So anyone calling it an audit either has not read it or is deceiving you. The cover page proves this. Ladies and gentlemen, I will conclude. I should never have been kicked off. My proposal is I move that this committee take action and require the chairman to obey the bylaws and repair his breach of contract by returning the standing committees to their original 2020-2022 structure as appointed by Jane Timken and requiring them to elect their own chairman. I further move this action be voted on by roll call. Thank you.
Well, again, we're asking members to keep it to 3 minutes. You know, your resolutions have been out for consideration for 10 days. We have a lot to do. These are taking a long time. At 3 minutes, we'll cut off your microphone after that, okay? I'm waiting for a second. There's a second. We have a motion. Is there a second? We have a second. The chair recognizes Alex Trantafilo. Yeah, so we moved to discussion. I'm sorry. Yeah, we moved to discussion on the motion.
I had a different motion. I was going to suggest reporting this to committee to take up the members' allegations.
Is there a second for Alex Triantafilo's motion to move the resolution of the Permanent Rules and Revisions Committee? Is there a second? Second, okay. A motion to refer the draft resolution to the Permanent Rules and Revision Committee is on the table. Is there discussion?
But bylaws, we are elected to, when we're elected, we are assigned to these committees, and we're there for 2 years. And then the next election, you know, the chairman has the option to change, there'll be new members and things like that. Nowhere does it state that you can just remove us anytime you want to, create the chairman. That's my problem. It's a violation of the bylaws.
Okay, so further discussion?
And they are almost zero. And this is kind of graceful. My question is are we referring this motion, just referring it to the original committees that James Simpson set up 2 years ago under the bylaws, or the revised committees that you altered a few weeks ago?
The current committees were sent out in an email dated October. Those are the committees, Mark.
Well, I'm sorry, but the whole issue here is are those?
Yes, they are, Mark.
Well, that does not comply with the bylaws. That's the issue we're really focused on. You do not have the authority, as Joe said.
Actually, I do, Mark.
Disagree.
No, Mark, I do have it, and those people were removed from committees for various actions, leaking documents to the press, harassing the auditors, threatening the auditors. Hey, Mark, you laugh, but I have the email right here where you threatened the auditors.
What did I threaten with?
Read it. Read it.
Read it.
Read it.
Read it.
Now. Again, the outbursts, you know.
Mr. Chairman, would you take a recess to clear?
Let's
Talk about it now.
This is it, right here and right now. No more disruptions, or we will take a recess. You all will be removed, irrespective of whether you said anything or not. Okay? If I do not hear, this is a quote from an email from you, Mark. If I do not hear from you by 5 p.m. Tuesday, August 10th, in your email to Clifton Larson Allen, that you have changed your position with regard to this matter, you will leave me no choice but to consider CLA a party to the financial problems of the ORP. I guess it's open to interpretation. Yes, Mary Beth.
I think it'd be prejudicial for us to consider any of this prior to this lawsuit. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm guessing that anything we do could be prejudicial to our side.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Yes, Shannon. Burns.
Mr. Chairman, I stand to make a comment on this motion, but also I'm now faced with a question that I wasn't aware of. You just mentioned that these members were removed for various things that you labeled off. Up until this point, I thought that you had removed me from a committee because I'm an ACI. I'm not aware of myself doing anything of the sort, of releasing anything, doing anything nefarious that you just referred to.
No,
and removing me from the committee. And I don't really understand if you're making an accusation on me that I did something.
No accusation.
Why did I get removed from the committee? And here's the point, I think, sir, is that I run a large organization, the largest GOP organization in the state. And if I have opposition, I engage with those people, I let them have a voice, and I don't remove them from committees. I also, I maybe you misspoke, and not everyone that was removed from the committee was being accused of doing something improper, but you just made that accusation, and I'm really curious.
I'm not making that accusation about you, Shane.
But you did.
I clarified. You asked me to clarify. Yeah, I did. I think I got to back. We made some adjustments. There were a number of members that wanted to be on certain committees, and I used my authority to make those decisions. I think we added a couple people that wanted to be on a specific committee. So I think that was what that shift was. No, just to make it clear, Shannon was not any of the individuals that did any of those things that were discussed. So I apologize. Yes, Doris. Doris, I'll be happy here. Rather than listen, we're getting way off topic in discussion here. We have a motion. I'm happy to talk to you afterwards. If you would have reached out to me to ask, I would have been happy to speak with you. You didn't. So none of it, Shannon. I wish you'd have called me if you felt that was an error. I didn't realize that was the case, but we make adjustments to it. Okay, we are really getting off topic here. I need to bring this back because we have to get this meeting done sometime today. Is there further discussion on the motion to refer the resolution? We have a call to question. Okay. Is there a second for the call to question? Okay. Seeing the question has been called, and again, just to reiterate, we are voting on a motion to refer Laura Rosenberg's resolution to the Permanent Rules and Revisions Committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Clearly, the ayes have it, and the draft resolution has been referred to the Permanent Rules and Revisions Committee. We will now consider a draft resolution submitted by Melanie Lenihan. The chair recognizes Melanie Lenihan to introduce the draft resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry, everybody, that I have to do this by phone.
We do the volume on that. Hey, Melanie, hang on a second. We're having a hard time hearing you. I don't know if you're on speakerphone. Not my volume. Can you get closer to the mic? No.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes. Barely.
Okay. This resolution is something I believe was relatively simple step. Really intended and enhance this committee's ability to achieve and exceed our goals of getting more Republicans elected and attracting more voters and donors to our party, and will help us to be a more effective and efficient organization. And the passage of this resolution will further display to the people of Ohio that we are striving to be more efficient and natural, and that those who receive our donation have received them legitimately and honestly. And I just acknowledge you for any conversation about this and consideration of it. Now, Mr. Chairman, since everybody had this for 10 days, do I need to read it?
No, you don't need to read it. I think that thing, sorry about the audio problems there, so that's better towards the end. There is a motion that's been made for a resolution. Is there a second resolution? There's a second. Mr. Chairman. The chair recognizes Dave Johnson. I recommend that you refer from the rules of the business committee. There's a second. Motion has been made for further draft resolution to the rules and revision committee. Is there any discussion on the motion? Yes.
Well, seeing as I was a member of the Permanent Rules Committee up until recently, I will share with the committee my opinion here. I've been involved in campaigns around the nation, here in Ohio, doing great work for our president, President Trump, who will be on next year in 2024. I believe that the party is facing its first real challenge of the modern day post-Trump era. President Trump was very, very gifted in changing our party for us unilaterally. He moved this state from a purple state, a hard purple state, leaning blue in some years, to a solid red state, winning by more than 8 points, and most likely greatly due to our chairman's hard work. But our party is now faced with a new challenge. This challenge is one of contested primaries. We haven't had real contested primaries. Even if you look back to the 2006 contested primary, that wasn't even close, right? That was the last one that was legitimate in our modern day era. We need to be thinking about the way we're going to operate as a body so that we are being fair and representative to all of our voters. By my reading of the rules, and I'm no attorney by any stretch, to play one on TV either, I don't believe that an endorsement of a candidate in 2018 stretches past the point in time when a legitimate candidate like Jim Renacci files against a sitting candidate like Mike DeWine. I don't believe that endorsement transcends that announcement that was made. So when we are now faced with a circumstance where the party is determining what we can do for our candidates when there's a contested primary, you have to look at the bylaws. And the bylaws clearly state that candidate services can only be provided to an endorsed candidate. If you don't believe that Mike DeWine is endorsed right now, as we sit today, then we are not permitted to provide candidate services to that candidate. In my mind, raising money for them, that's a service that we provide to candidates. Providing in-kind contributions, paying for their staff on our payroll, that's a candidate service. I don't believe that in this new era of the Republican Party that we should be providing these services that we used to always do when there wasn't contested primaries. We need to be thinking about that. We need to make smart choices, and we need to have discussions and not refer them to committee. We need to have that discussion today because everyone's relying on us to be transparent, follow rules, and to engage. That's what we need to do today.
Any further? Oh, yes. Chief Glory.
Manager, your chair. May I be recognized?
Yeah, who's on the phone? Okay.
I'm speaking to that motion. I just feel like I understand the motion to take it to committee. However, this is a very timely issue. We can't take this to committee. That would be very irresponsible. I think we need to decide this now. However it's decided, it's fine, but it needs to be decided now.
Okay. Chairman recognizes Gloria Martin.
I agree with the sense of this resolution. I think we need to be very clear in how the party is utilizing the money for these candidates, because it goes back to your point about our purpose here as state central committee members is to win in the November election. And if there is a clear candidate, we want to support that candidate, just like we are for Justice Kennedy for Supreme Court. That's the purpose of that. But as I see our bylaws, they are vague. It's not giving a timeline of when those services can be utilized. So I think we need to go beyond a resolution for this current election and revise our bylaws to clearly specify when those funds can be utilized, for what candidates, and what sense of endorsement it can be used for.
Thank you, Gloria. Any further discussion?
If no one is doing it, I will move this.
Oh, hang on over here. Sorry, Jim.
I agree with Shannon. I too was removed from the permanent rules and revisions committee without, I even asked Justin why I was, but no response there. But I agree. We keep ignoring our bylaws. And when our bylaws say we don't do this, and we go ahead and do it and justify it, there's something wrong there. Why do we have bylaws if we are not going to follow the bylaws? I move that we actually do take a roll call vote on this because I would love to see who's voting against following the bylaws.
Yes. Jim?
Or if the parliamentarian could please confirm, I'm mindful of the motion that's just been made, what motion is actually on the floor?
The motion that's on the floor, I can do that, Jim. The motion on the floor is to refer the resolution to the Permanent Rules Committee. That's the motion on the floor. That's the discussion. Right. Yeah.
You just moved it to be a roll call. So that's-
Yeah, no, again, we dealt with the roll call vote issue. It's not. Yes, we don't do this. Correct.
It's really just a tactic to avoid facing the issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do vote on it. This is the one issue that I signed up for this for. In fact, when Mr. Paducci, when I was the chairman, he called me. We happened to be at Disney World. We're riding around on a golf cart. And he asked if there's anything I had concerns. I said, I do not want us to endorse the party. He said, as a chairman, he said, some things I need to lead on, and some things I need to follow through on, follow the committee on. And he said, this is one of those things where I will follow the committee's lead. We need to show some leadership and not just show ourselves.
We have a motion to call the question. Is there a second? Okay, again, we are voting on the motion to refer the resolution to the Permanent Rules and Revisions Committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
I think we'll do it.
Now he wants to do it again.
It's not clear to the chair, so I'll call for division of the House. And what we've traditionally done is standing up, folks standing up. So all those in favor of referring the resolution to the Rules and Bylaws Committee, please stand up. If you support the motion to refer the resolution to the Permanent Rules and the Bylaws Committee, please stand up. We have 35. The committee is 66. That clearly passes. Thank you. The resolution is referred to the Permanent Rules and Revisions Committee. Yeah.
They're voting.
We're going to take a brief recess and we're going to clear those members that are not elected officials. The elected officials and candidates can stay, but those of you in the gallery creating noise and causing problems, I need to ask you to leave. Folks, you need to leave.
Non-elected people are going
I'm
to stay.
suspending we're taking a recess until the gallery is cleared.
Leanne Johnson. Franklin County who asked. I wanted to.
Yeah, this is fine. I thought this was, I know that was good. Did it when thank you.
I've been giving her the district here in Franklin County, Dunning there. Just in case she voted against me.
Ask everybody. We're asking.
Hey, obviously, members of the credentialed media are allowed to stay. Where's Tricia? Members of the media. Okay, everyone else needs to leave.
Yes. Good. Director,
Little Democrat. Mayor Panucek.
This meeting is closed to the public, only credentialed members of the media and invited elected officials and candidates and members of the committee can attend. All other need to leave and we'll secure the doors.
Yeah, we should. I think that's going to be a big
It's not, and it's, give me 1 second.
Well, fortunately, the time that someone last year, after the. Yeah, oh my God. No, that's what it is. Oh, we gotta do it. Oh, one more. I know. I know.
I disagree.
Ladies and gentlemen, if we do not clear the room in the next 5 minutes, we're going to adjourn the meeting. There's 5 minutes for people to comply. Thank you. Yes, this is Jack Windsor. That's Jack Windsor. Yes, Jack Windsor. Right here. That's your camera. Right, your camera.
Yeah, this is. Okay. Yeah. Oh, this camera? No, this camera. I'm sorry.
This camera. This is.
This, I'm laptop right here.
Okay.
This stuff right here.
I think this was someone who left the meeting.
Hey, man.
Excuse me.
I didn't know they had any questions.
What is your first and last name? You spell your first and last name? Where do you live? Why did you come to today's meeting? Okay. How do you think the meeting's going so far? Have you been thrown out of a meeting?
That's not even.
Yeah. And did the police officer talk to you?
No.
Oh, you were told this.
Well, from the church.
Okay. And
Hey, Mark, this is Chris's. He left.
Yeah.
Now that the meeting's adjourned.